There's a small bucket next to most fireplaces and fire pits that gets filled up every week through the cold months and then carried out to the trash without a second thought. If that's you, I want you to stop and look at what you're throwing away before the next time you empty it. Because that gray ash, that fine powdery residue from your wood fire, is one of the most concentrated free soil amendments that exists. And I mean concentrated. Two nutrients in particular, potassium and calcium, are present in wood ash at levels high enough to make a real, measurable difference in your garden when applied correctly. The issue is that most gardeners who have heard of using wood ash either use too much of it, use it on the wrong plants, or have never used it at all because they've heard it can cause problems. All three of those concerns are legitimate, but they're also entirely manageable once you understand what you're actually working with. What if the thing sitting in that bucket right now, the thing you were about to dump, could replace two products you buy at the garden center every season? What if the potassium supplement and the lime you've been paying for were already in your house, already concentrated, already waiting? I'm going to show you exactly what wood ash contains. 3 specific ways to apply it. The plants that love it. The plants you must never use it on. And the one test you need to do before any of this matters. That test is the most important thing in this video. Don't skip it. This channel is where we turn everyday kitchen waste and overlooked household materials into real, practical growing knowledge for experienced gardeners who want better soil without spending money. New videos come out every week. If that sounds like something you need, subscribe now, and let's talk about what's in that ash. Let me tell you what's in that bucket. When wood burns, what's left behind is everything that didn't combust. The mineral content of the tree itself. Everything organic, the carbon, the hydrogen, the nitrogen, goes up as gas and heat. What remains is the inorganic skeleton, the minerals that the tree pulled from the soil over decades of growth, now concentrated into a fine powder. Potassium, which makes up between 3 and 7% of wood ash by weight, is the headline nutrient. Potassium is what plants use for fruit and flower development, for disease resistance, for regulating water movement in and out of cells. A tomato plant without adequate potassium produces thin-skinned, poorly flavored fruit. A pepper plant without it is more vulnerable to disease. You can see potassium deficiency. The edges of older leaves turn brown and crispy, as if they've been lightly scorched. That's the cells dying because they can't regulate their water balance without potassium. Calcium is present at even higher concentrations, 20 to 35% as calcium carbonate. That's essentially the same compound as agricultural lime, the product gardeners buy in bags specifically to raise soil pH and add calcium to depleted soil. You're looking at $20 worth of lime in every fireplace cleaning. There are also trace amounts of magnesium, manganese, boron, and copper. Micronutrients that support enzyme function, chlorophyll production, and cellular processes that most gardeners never think about, but that plants absolutely need. The one thing wood ash does not contain is nitrogen. It burns off completely during combustion. So you need to understand from the start that wood ash is not a complete fertilizer. It's a potassium and calcium source with trace minerals. Use it as that, and it's remarkable. Expect it to replace a balanced fertilizer, and you'll be disappointed. Now here's the most important thing to understand about wood ash, and the thing that determines whether it helps your garden or hurts it. The calcium carbonate in wood ash is alkaline. Add it to soil, and you raise the pH. You move soil toward the alkaline end of the scale. This is genuinely beneficial in many situations. In areas with moderate to high rainfall, most of the eastern United States, the Pacific Northwest, Northern Europe, much of the UK, soil tends to become acidic over time as calcium and other alkaline minerals get leached out by water moving through the soil profile. A soil pH below 6 makes nutrients like phosphorus chemically unavailable to plants even when those nutrients are physically present in the soil. The phosphorus is there, the plant roots are there, but the chemistry of acidic soil locks them apart. Raise the pH toward the ideal range of 6 to 7, and those nutrients become accessible again. The plants begin feeding from what was already there, but locked away. In this situation, wood ash does something extraordinary without costing you anything. But here's where it goes wrong for gardeners who apply it without thinking. If your soil is already at neutral pH, around 7 or above it, adding wood ash pushes the pH into alkaline territory. Above pH 7.5, plants start showing deficiencies of iron, manganese, and other micronutrients even when those elements are present in the soil. The chemistry changes and locks them away. The same problem in reverse. You've made the situation worse. And because pH changes take time to correct, the damage from over-application is harder to undo than it was to cause. This is why the one piece of advice I'll give you before anything else is this. Test your pH before you apply wood ash. A basic kit costs a few dollars and takes 5 minutes. A digital pH meter is slightly more and gives you precision that matters if you're close to the boundary. Knowing where your soil starts tells you whether wood ash is something your garden needs or something that would harm it. If your pH comes back below 6.5, wood ash is almost certainly beneficial. Between 6.5 and 7, use it sparingly, if at all. Above 7, don't use it. This single test is the difference between wood ash being a free miracle and a free mistake. Once you know your soil is acidic and can benefit from ash, you have 3 ways to apply it, and each one serves a different purpose. The first and simplest is a light surface dusting. This is the method for garden beds and around established plants. Sprinkle wood ash thinly and evenly around your plants, no more than roughly a 5-gallon bucket worth per 1,000 square feet of garden area. That's less than most people expect, and that restraint is the point. Work it lightly into the soil surface with a rake or your fingers and water it in. The water dissolves the calcium carbonate and potassium salts and carries them into the root zone. Don't apply when it's windy, because ash is extraordinarily light and you'll lose most of it to the air, and some of it into your eyes, which is not pleasant. Don't apply just before heavy rain, because a sudden downpour on a fresh ash application can create a localized alkalinity spike that temporarily shocks plant roots and soil microbes in that spot. And don't apply more than once per year. Of all the mistakes people make with wood ash, applying too much too often is the most common and the most damaging. The second method is ash tea. You fill a cloth bag, an old pillowcase works perfectly, with a cup or 2 of wood ash and steep it in a 5-gallon bucket of water for 24 to 48 hours, stirring occasionally. The resulting liquid is a mild alkaline solution rich in dissolved potassium and calcium. Use it as a liquid feed, pouring it at the base of plants rather than on the leaves, once every 2 to 3 weeks during the growing season. This method is gentler than direct surface application because you're delivering the minerals in diluted, dissolved form. The roots can absorb them immediately without waiting for rain or watering to dissolve the powder. It's particularly well suited to container plants, where the limited soil volume means pH can shift dramatically with even small applications of dry ash. The tea gives you more control. The mistake with ash tea is making it too strong. 2 cups of ash in 5 gallons of water is plenty. More is not better. And always pour the tea at the soil line, never on the foliage. The alkaline solution can burn leaf tissue, leaving white or brown spots that look like a disease but are actually a chemical burn. The third method brings wood ash into your compost pile, and this is the one I use most often because it solves 2 problems at once. Adding a thin layer of ash, a handful scattered across the surface, to your compost every time you add a layer of fresh material does 2 things. It introduces potassium and calcium to the finished compost, enriching the final product, and it slightly buffers any over-acidity in the pile, which is common in piles that are heavy on fruit scraps, coffee grounds, or other acidic green materials. A pile that's too acidic slows down the bacterial activity that drives decomposition. A light dusting of ash corrects that. One caution here that genuinely matters. Never add wood ash and fresh nitrogen-rich materials, chicken manure, fresh grass clippings, blood meal, to the compost at the same time in the same layer. The combination of alkaline ash and high nitrogen materials produces ammonia gas, which carries nitrogen out of the pile into the air, where it's lost forever. You can smell it. that sharp, eye-watering ammonia smell. Add ash to the dry carbon layers, the cardboard, the dead leaves, the straw, not the wet nitrogen ones. Keep them separated by at least one layer, and the chemistry works in your favor instead of against you. As for which plants respond best to wood ash, tomatoes and peppers are at the top of the list. The potassium supports fruit development and flavor, and the calcium directly addresses the moisture transport issue that causes blossom end rot. Root vegetables, carrots, beets, turnips, parsnips, benefit from the potassium for root development and the calcium for cell wall strength. Garlic and onions respond particularly well to ash applied at planting time, mixed into the soil of each planting hole. Fruit trees, especially apples and pears, use potassium for fruit quality and disease resistance. A ring of ash around the drip line in early spring can noticeably improve fruit set and flavor by harvest. The plants you should never apply wood ash to are the acid-loving ones. Blueberries, azaleas, rhododendrons, camellias, hydrangeas. If you want them blue, these plants require a pH of 4.5 to 5.5. Any ash application will push the pH in the wrong direction. The symptoms appear gradually: yellowing leaves, slow growth, reduced flowering, and over time, plant decline. If you have acid-loving plants in your garden, draw a mental boundary around them. Ash goes everywhere else. Now let me address the concerns you've probably heard. The first is that wood ash is caustic and dangerous. Here's the truth. Dry wood ash is mildly alkaline, roughly pH 10 to 12 in concentrated form. It can irritate skin with prolonged contact, and it will irritate your eyes and lungs if you breathe it in. Wear gloves, work on a calm day, and don't lean over the bucket while scooping. These are sensible precautions, not reasons to avoid using it. Once ash is watered into soil and diluted, the alkalinity moderates rapidly. You're not creating a hazardous zone in your garden. The second concern is that ash from treated wood, painted wood, or plywood is safe to use. It is not. Treated lumber contains copper, arsenic, and chromium. Painted wood contains lead, zinc, and various volatile compounds. Plywood adhesives contain formaldehyde. None of these things belong in your garden soil. Only use ash from natural, untreated wood. Hardwoods, oak, maple, ash, hickory, produce the highest quality ash with the best nutrient concentration. Softwoods, pine, spruce, fir, produce ash that's lower in nutrients and higher in compounds that can temporarily suppress seed germination. Both are safe to use, but hardwood ash is meaningfully better. Let me be fair about something. If your soil is already neutral or alkaline and your plants are showing potassium deficiency, wood ash is not your answer. You need a potassium source that doesn't raise pH. Sulfate of potash, green sand, or banana peel tea would be better choices. And if you have a severe calcium deficiency in alkaline soil, gypsum adds calcium without changing pH. Wood ash is remarkable, but it's not the right tool for every situation. Knowing when not to use it is just as important as knowing how to use it. Here's what to expect. The pH effect of a single application becomes measurable within 2 to 4 weeks. If you test before and after, you'll typically see a rise of 0.2 to 0.5 pH units from one moderate application. The potassium becomes plant available within 1 to 2 weeks after watering in. Plants that were showing edge-scorch symptoms from potassium deficiency will stop producing new damaged leaves within a few weeks. Though existing damaged leaves won't recover, look for improvement in new growth only. Over the course of a full season with one spring application, the cumulative benefit shows most clearly in fruit and root crops. Tomato gardeners consistently report improved flavor and firmer fruit. Root vegetables show better size and fewer forking problems. And the soil pH correction, in gardens that needed it, unlocks nutrients that were already present but unavailable. You may see a general improvement across all plants as phosphorus, molybdenum, and other pH-sensitive nutrients become accessible. Let's talk about collection and storage. Ash should be collected from a fully cooled fireplace or fire pit, never from a fire that burned within the past 48 hours, because embers can persist invisibly under the ash surface. Store it in a metal container with a tight lid, not a paper bag or plastic bucket. Ash is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture from the air. And wet ash is harder to apply evenly and begins losing its potassium content as the water dissolves and leaches it. Keep it dry until you're ready to use it. A metal trash can with a lid, stored in a garage or shed, works perfectly. One heating season of regular fireplace use generates enough ash for a substantial garden. There's something worth reflecting on here. The ash in that bucket is the mineral memory of trees that grew in your region over decades. Those trees pulled potassium, calcium, magnesium, and trace minerals from the local soil and concentrated them in their wood over 30, 50, sometimes 100 years of growth. When you burn that wood and return the ash to your garden, you're closing a nutrient cycle that spans generations. The minerals go back to soil. The soil feeds plants. The plants feed you. Nothing was manufactured. Nothing was shipped from a mine in another country. Nothing was processed in a factory and packaged in plastic. The cycle is local, it's ancient, and it's free. If your growing season hasn't started yet, now is the perfect time to test your soil pH and plan your ash application for spring. During the growing season, apply once in early spring and use ash tea every few weeks for container plants. In autumn, a light dusting on garden beds after harvest prepares the soil for next year. Through winter, collect and store ash from every fire. You're building a supply that will serve your garden when the ground thaws. If you haven't tested your soil pH, do it this week. That 5-minute test determines everything. If your pH comes back below 6.5, you have a genuine free soil amendment sitting in that bucket by your fireplace, and every time you carry it to the trash, you're throwing away what your garden is asking for. I'd love to hear from you. Have you used wood ash before? Did it help? Did you make the mistake of using too much? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and the experiences you share help other gardeners avoid the same mistakes. If you found value in this, subscribe. Every week, we turn overlooked, everyday materials into real gardening knowledge. Practical, evidence-based, and free. Hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. The best amendments for your garden don't come from a store. Sometimes they come from your fireplace.